All right, so it's Uncle Sam's nephew. All right, back for a return engagement by popular demand or not. What I'm going to talk about as quickly as I can, because there's lots to go over, are the Senate races. We are now down to a week. So people will, a week from today, those who have not voted early, cast their ballots or done absentees, will be in the final stages, somewhere between 8 or 10 hours between polls closing right now. So this is the 1 week review. I got an itchy chin, sorry. So this is the 1 week review, and I'm looking at 35 Senate races. That is 33 regular Senate races. A third of the Senate comes up every 2 years, plus 2 special elections, one in Minnesota and one in Mississippi. So there are a total of 35 races. The Democrats are heavily at risk this time because there are many more Democrats who hold seats than there are Republicans. I think there are only 6 Republican seats, and there are 20-some Democrats, 25 or so. There are 14 races, I think, that just cannot, that the Republicans are not going to win, or I would be surprised if they do. There are 2 independents, one in Maine. That's, what the heck is his name, Angus, and of course Bernie Sanders in Vermont, and 12 Democrats, including Dianne Feinstein in California. And if De Leon won, you'd have a Democrat anyway. You've got Connecticut, Delaware, Hawaii with Mazie Hirono, the one that tells men to shut up and then stand up and protect her, I guess. Massachusetts with Pocahontas, the pale white impersonator of Native Americans who deserve respect and not someone claiming to be one of them. Maryland, the Minnesota, number 1, Klobuchar. I don't think she loses. New Mexico, which is largely blue. New York with Kirsten Gillibrand, crazy Kirsten Gillibrand. Then you've got Rhode Island, Virginia with Kane, and Washington with Cantwell. How much can't you do well? Washington is a strange place, I got to tell you. You got the tennis shoe mom, the soccer mom with the tennis shoes, and Cantwell. You ought to have at least one heavy, one capable of being able to multiply and divide without a calculator. Those 2 can't, as best I can see it. All right, so I think there are 5 states sure to go Republican. That's Nebraska, Wyoming, Utah. That's pretty obvious. 2 of those they don't even do polls on. Utah with Willard, that is Mitley, Willard, Romney. He's a Republican. He's barely a Republican. I think he has a blue stripe down his back. No, it's probably, what color would it be? Black? White, orange. He is a George H.W. Bush fake child, semi-step parent. Is he better than the Democrat? Well, I don't know, but yeah, he fills a slot. He fills a hole. The second Mississippi candidate, Texas. I think so. There are 4 states that I think are likely to hold Republican. That is Texas. Cruz, I think, holds. Tennessee. Blackburn holds. Nevada, it looks like the trends are working for Heller to hold his seat. They're up almost 2 points. And the Republicans in the early voting are outdistancing by three points their previous records. Arizona, you've got Flaky Flake, who is now, the little snowflake has melted. His crooked little left-leaning nose is gone soon. and Martha McSally and Kirsten Sinema are running. It's a really tight race. It has shifted from positive on the polls, positive McSally to positive Sinema, but the Republicans are outpolling the Democrats by a significant number in early balloting and early ballot returns. I think it probably shifts Republican and stays that way, and it is a significant improvement if McSally wins. I don't know how much you lose if Sinema wins. God Almighty. So North Dakota, they keep showing it as likely or leaning Republican, even where Heitkamp is the incumbent Democrat. But the polls show, and this is crazy, and everybody's doing it wrong as I see it. It is so far Republican that Heitkamp could just fold her tent and move to the Northwest Territories and it wouldn't make any difference. I don't think anything she does at this point with Kramer is going, short of Kramer shooting himself or entering a synagogue or something like that and killing people off, Kramer wins. He's up by somewhere between 12 and 16 points. They show it as light pink, which is slightly reddened. I think it's bright red. I think it's dark red. And unless the North Dakotans decide there's no sense in going because they've won, it happens. The Missouri, McCaskill is in deep doo-doo. Hawley currently shows ahead in polls, and it's probably more than it shows. The race that I think I picked next, and I picked Braun over Donnelly, at least preliminarily. This weekend I'll do an actual prediction, and I will compare myself to all of these great folks that are out there doing real polls and give you my own best estimates, such as they are. I think Braun pulls out over Donnelly in Indiana. Florida has consistently shown Nelson a couple points up on Scott. Every once in a while it flips, but all those polls are bogus. The trends seem to be leaning towards Scott. The latest poll is down on Nelson, and the Republicans are outpolling the Democrats in early voting in Florida by over 3%, 3 points, and that is significant. There are possible wins for Republicans in Montana. The latest poll shows Rosendale gaining ground on Tester. Again, that's really close. I don't know that the early votes, if any of you have an indication of how those early votes are going and if they're differentiated. Some states don't differentiate who votes early. The New Jersey race, surprisingly, Huggin is creeping in on Menendez. The last two polls show it a 5-point race. The averages are 6.5, but Menendez is coming in really close. Michigan, this is another race that was 16 points in favor of Stab Me Now, Debbie Stab Me Now, over John Jones. But Jones has, the only thing that's hard about the Michigan race is that Jones doesn't have another month, because I think in a month he'd win hands down. He has gone from 16 down to 5 to 7 down. The latest polls show him within striking range. It's almost within the margin of error. Now, I know if you have 5 polls that all show him 5 points behind, and you say, well, that's the margin of error. Well, they're not. If you combine them, then he's down. But where you have sequential polls one at a time that are a week apart and they're creeping, it is a clear indication that Jones is gaining ground. Now, there are 3 marginal Republican potentials. Minnesota, Tina Smith still leads Karen Housley, but that has crept down. It's down to 6 to 9 points, and it's getting closer and closer. Wisconsin, Whether that comes together or not, I don't know. Again, it is closing, and it's probably down to 6 or 8 points, which is really good. A couple really interesting ones, and these are the 3 toughest wins for the Republicans. West Virginia, which Manchin voted in favor of Kavanaugh, trying to cover his tail. He had both hands on his backside. He was too chicken to vote when it was his turn. He walked outside and voted late after he knew that Collins voted Republican. The Republican Collins voted yes for Kavanaugh, which covered Manchin and made him so he's not the swing guy, which is too chicken to do. He would not have done. So if you're in West Virginia and you want a guy that won't put both hands on his butt to keep himself protected, don't vote for Manchin. Then the other 2 ones and that look out of range, 2 incumbents, Sherrod Brown and in Pennsylvania, Casey, but I think it's Bob Casey, both Democrats. They're both in that heartland country. Both of them look like they're out of reach. The old polls on both of them are 16 points difference. But Renacci and what the heck's the guy running against? I can't think what his name is in Pennsylvania. Both of those are creeping down. And Ohio, some people are shifting Ohio back to a leaning Democrat, not as opposed to a likely Democrat. So it is closing in, and according to Larry Schweikert, there are 300,000 Republican registrations in Ohio over what they were previously and leaning much more Republican. So those kinds of things are helping across the board. And nationwide, the Republicans are up almost 2.5%, or 2.5 points, on early voting over the Democrats, which is an interesting trend. And while it shows polarity, there is more polarity in this election than there probably has been, I don't know, since 1933 or something like that. But it is a highly polarized election. And Republicans seem to be more polarized, which in this case is good. There's no unity spot for us now. There's no unity. This is not a unity election. Perhaps there will be healing after it, but anybody who is looking to be conciliatory at this time is wasting his time, because the Democrats all want to polarize as hard as they can. And the Republicans are more polaric than they've ever had to be, and they're doing it, as I have said on this channel. If you don't vote all Republican, you are conceding much of the advantage that you might want to get in a few areas where you have to get advantage. So it is critical to be, as much as one can, polaric this time. And I'm not telling you Democrats to vote all Democratic, but I think if you're a Republican, you really want to stay with it. All right, so that's my best estimate. Let me give you a couple other estimates. There is a battleground poll, the 270 to win. You can take a look at it. It is www.272win.com. If you take a look at it, and the Senate election, it allows you to look at battleground, which is 7 colors, and it shows 5 states that are in the toss-up range: Montana, Nevada, Arizona, Missouri, Indiana, and Florida. I've already told you, I think Nevada, Arizona, Missouri, Indiana, and Florida, 5 of the toss-up states go Republican. I think Montana hangs in the balance. Clearly, the 4 states they show as leaning, that is lightly leaning Republican, are North Dakota, which I think is, I don't know that I'd bet the farm that North Dakota goes toward Kramer and away from Heitkamp, but it's the safest. It's the safest bet that nobody will say is a safe bet in the entire election this time. I think it could be 12 to 16 and maybe even 20 points difference between them. I think the North Dakotans are going to kick butt and take names, and Heidi Heitkamp is gone. She just as well go rent a pig farm somewhere because she's not going to be in the Senate next year. Then you've got the light blue states, and interestingly enough, West Virginia and New Jersey are the two light blue states they're showing, and 4 or 5 pale blue states, which include the Minnesota second one, Wisconsin, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. That whole Rust Belt, Midwestern folks is hanging in the balance and could go either way. And of course, 3 of those 4 states, 4 of those 5 states voted for Trump, and a couple of them came within an eyelash of voting for Trump 2 years ago. And then you've got the 4, they just show 4 states as solidly Republican: Wyoming, Utah, Nebraska, and Mississippi. I mean, I don't think anybody needs to roll out of bed and do that when you just yell out, "Hey, I'm voting Republican." That's all you got to do in those 4 states. But vote. I'm just kidding. Vote. Texas and Tennessee are floating, but I don't think they're floating very hard. And I think Tennessee has moved significantly Republican. The likelihood is with Cruz O'Rourke contest, I just don't see Texas tossing Cruz at this point. All right, then you've got, looking at it, Sabato Crystal Ball has it fairly close. They show Montana going blue. They show West Virginia going blue. They still show 5 states in the neutral zone: Missouri, Indiana, Florida, Arizona, and Nevada. And everybody else pretty well paired out. You've got 538. These are the liberals that were so far off last time. They should have folded shop. They were the biggest predictor for Hillary to win and for the great blue wave that was supposed to happen in 16. They thought she'd never lose. That ought to be their motto. We thought she'd never lose. This is Nate Silver and 538. And these guys, I watch them and they drag their feet moving. Whenever there's a poll that goes more Republican, they drag their feet. They ignore it. Whenever there's a poll that goes more Democrat, showing a shift, they jump on it like stink on poop. And so they show it as really close. As a matter of fact, they show the election within a half senator. You got 1/2 senator, right? Somebody's too confused to know. Maybe it's too bad Flake didn't stick around because he could be a half-assed Republican and a half-assed Democrat, but maybe they'll get Mitt Romney to fill that spot. But it shows it as really close, basically the same kind of stuff. It's almost not worth doing. You guys can take a look at 538 if you want to. I look at them to see trends, but I look at them to see what they don't do by way of trends. Then you've got Inside Elections, which is another one of the polling outfits. They show West Virginia and Montana as pale blue. They show New Jersey as more blue, along with Tina Smith and the second Senate race in Minnesota. They show Tennessee and North Dakota as light pink. Well, North Dakota's not, I've said it 3 times, right? Heitkamp loses. I predict Heitkamp loses. I win. Missouri as pale red, and then Texas as medium red. I guess this is how you order steak, right? Medium rare, lightly rare, totally rare, purple rare. So the 5 purple rare, Cold Center. Let's call it Cold Center, right? This is a good restaurant. Cold Center is red, 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 all the way to the middle, blood red. Wyoming, Utah, Nebraska, and the 2 Mississippis. And so that's pretty clear there. Cook Political, that also does a polling setup, shows it with more neutral states, that is more toss-up states than anybody, and interestingly tosses in New Jersey, but not West Virginia. West Virginia leans a little blue according to Cook, but Menendez, evidently Cook sees Menendez softening and perhaps losing entirely to, what the heck's his name? I'll get it in a minute. My little pre-brain just stopped. Huggin, I believe it is. Yeah, Bob Huggin. And so that one's interesting. Indiana, Tennessee, Florida, Missouri, Texas, Montana, Nevada, and Arizona. Cook sees is all in the neutral camp. And then the cold centers are just Wyoming, Utah, Nebraska, and Mississippi. And pink are North Dakota and the second Mississippi contest. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh, CNN. You want to hear about CNN? That's a laugh, right? What do they must do? Throw darts at the wall? They're so unpredictable, it's hard to say, except at how bad they are. So they show the same five cold centers. That is Utah, Wyoming, Nebraska, and the two Mississippis. They show a pale red in Tennessee. That is, they think Blackburn has an advantage over Bredesen. Texas, they show as medium pink. That is medium rare. And then the neutral states, that is the medium ones that nobody can decide, are Nevada, Arizona, Missouri, North Dakota, Indiana, West Virginia, and Florida. And the rest of them as light or darker blue. But interestingly here, with CNN, they're showing Montana as light blue between Tester and Rosendale. Wisconsin is light blue, and Ohio is light blue. So they're putting Ohio, which some of these older polls show Sherrod Brown, as 16 points up. And if they put him in the same category with Ohio, with Renassi, I think it is Renassi, with Sherrod Brown that close, that tight, it's within 4 or 5 points, or they wouldn't throw that in the same pile. So even CNN is picking that as a tough one. I'll give you links to all of these. I think probably the easiest way is just to give you a link to the 270towin.com, and you can play with it from there, including making your own predictions and seeing how it works. It's a very interesting interactive map and quite helpful. So I will link that to it. But here's the way I see it. I see it as moving even more Republican, and that is, the polarity is high, and the Republicans know it, and they're voting with dogged determination. And the second thing is, and so that means that they're more likely, I think, to down ballot, to straight ballot, to hold their nose if they have to, with guys like Willard Romney. But more than that, they are motivated to vote even more than the Democrats are. I mean, one would think, with all the screaming that CNN and MSNBC and NBC and CBS and ABC have pounded for 2 years at how horrible Trump is and how we have to fix that, one would think that the Democrats would all be at the starting block waiting for the morning of early voting to start so that they can scream down to their local polling station and make sure that Trump gets impeached, that nobody covers it. But that's clearly not the way the trends are moving right now. If you look at Larry Schweikert and others, he's on Twitter, he's doing analysis on this stuff. And it's clear in a number of states, including Nevada, Arizona, Florida, and West Virginia, that Republicans are coming out in significant numbers above what the expectations are. So that's the report here. I will give another one probably Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I'm trying to figure out how to get live on Tuesday, at least maybe from 4 or 5 o'clock till midnight or something, and just do a live and engage and interact with you folks, pick up some of the reports that you're getting from various sources. It would be a lot of fun. So I'll see if I can figure it out, and we'll go from there. So there's your preliminary announcement for next Tuesday. That's the report so far. I hope you think that I was moving quickly here. Somebody wrote and said, well, you talk really slow, and I'm a Texan, and so if I think you're talking slow, you must be talking really slow. I don't think so, but oh well. Everybody has his own impression. Thanks so much for watching. If you like it, give a thumbs up. We're going to crank right after this thing for the next week. I'm holding off on my personal story. I can't get focused on it until this goes away, and I have two of the hardest chapters I think I'll ever have to write are staring me down the face, and I can't get focused. So talk to you later. Thanks again. All the support you can get, I really truly appreciate it.